You're here because you want to get a grip on what's really happening, and today we're diving into something pretty serious. A massive Russian drone attack on Ukraine and all the diplomatic tension sort of swirling around it.
That's right. We've got a report here detailing a really significant escalation in Russia's air attacks, and it's happening right alongside some key diplomatic moves. So our mission today is to break down these events, try to understand the motivations, the why behind it, and look at the potential fallout, all based on this news article.
Okay, let's jump right into the drone attack itself. The scale is, well, it's hard to ignore. The report calls it one of the war's largest. We're talking an estimated 273 exploding drones and decoys. That's a huge number.
It really is. And
Yeah.
the primary target, according to the Ukrainians, was Kyiv. So not just scattered everywhere, but seemingly a very deliberate, concentrated hit on the capital.
And tragically, there were immediate human costs. The report confirms a woman was killed, several others injured, including a 4-year-old child in the Kyiv area. It just brings home the reality of these attacks intensifying.
Absolutely. And beyond the casualties, the Ukrainian Air Force says they shot down 88 of these drones. But, and this is interesting, 128 others just vanished from radar screens over about 9 hours.
Vanished. That raises questions, doesn't it, about air defense effectiveness against such a massive swarm.
It certainly does. How effective can defenses be when faced with that kind of volume, potentially with sophisticated tech involved, too?
And this isn't just a one-off, is it? The report highlights this pattern of really large drone attacks becoming more frequent, waves of over 100 drones multiple times a week sometimes. There was even a previous high, 263 back in February?
Exactly. It really points towards a shift in maybe how Russia is conducting this part of the war.
So what's the thinking behind it? Does the report give any insight into the strategy?
Well, it includes an assessment from Ukrainian intelligence.
Yeah.
They seem to think Russia's longer-term plan involves these regular massive swarms, maybe even over 500 drones at a time, the idea being to completely overwhelm Ukraine's air defenses.
To overwhelm them.
Yeah.
Why? Just to get drones through.
Partly, but the theory is it creates weak spots, makes Ukraine vulnerable for potentially even bigger missile bombardments afterwards to maximize damage.
That's a chilling thought. Using drones to pave the way for missiles. And it's not just quantity over quality either, right? The tech is improving.
Definitely. The report mentions upgrades drones with jet engines, using Starlink for navigation, which is satellite-based, gives better range, higher altitude, and critically, capacity for bigger payloads, even thermobaric munitions. These are those really destructive weapons that use oxygen from the air.
Wow. Okay, so more drones, better drones, more powerful weapons. That's a significant development.
It shows a real focus on boosting their drone capabilities, making them harder to stop and more dangerous. It's a complex challenge for Ukraine's defenses.
Now let's talk timing. This huge attack happened, the day before Presidents Trump and Putin were scheduled to talk?
Yeah.
That feels deliberate.
It certainly feels significant. The report suggests one interpretation is Russia showing its military muscle right before that call. President Trump's stated goal was pushing for a ceasefire. This attack could be Russia saying we can still escalate, maybe trying to get better terms by highlighting the cost of continuing the fight.
Right, like a signal of strength and resolve just
Yeah.
before potential talks.
Well,
What about previous interactions? The report mentions an earlier call back in February between Trump and Putin that Moscow apparently liked.
yes, the view from Moscow was reportedly positive because it seemed like President Trump favored direct U.S.-Russia talks about Ukraine's future. And crucially, that call happened before he spoke with Zelensky. That sequence might have suggested to the Kremlin a shift in U.S. priorities, maybe leaning towards dealing directly with Russia first.
Okay, so Trump's overall approach, as laid out here, seems to involve pressuring Ukraine while maybe offering Russia some incentives. Things like taking Ukraine's NATO membership off the table,
Yeah.
or hinting at recognizing the annexation of Crimea. Those are big potential concessions.
They are substantial points, yes. And the report connects this to past actions by the Trump administration, like briefly suspending U.S. military aid and intel sharing. And also, despite Congress approving over $3 billion in assistance, no new packages have actually been sent by the administration.
That paints a picture of the U.S. stance, or at least the administration's approach. But what about Ukraine? What are they saying diplomatically? President Zelensky, the report notes, has agreed to an unconditional, immediate ceasefire.
Yes, he restated that readiness after meeting Pope Leo and U.S. officials. But the sticking point, consistently, seems to be President Putin. The report says he's dragging his feet, adding preconditions that Ukraine finds unacceptable.
And those direct talks that happened recently, first in about 3 years.
Yeah.
Didn't get anywhere either.
No progress reported. The account suggests Russia came with maximalist demands, reportedly asking Ukraine to cede territory that Russia doesn't even fully control yet. So, yeah, fundamental disagreements there.
Maximalist demands. Yeah, hard to see a breakthrough there. It also seems like there isn't complete agreement within the U.S. itself on the best way forward. There was that meeting in Rome, VP Vance, Secretary Rubio, with Zelensky.
Right, after Pope Leo's inaugural mass, the report frames it as an attempt to show that any previous tension between Vance and Zelensky had eased. The focus was explicitly on getting to a ceasefire and lasting peace talks. So perhaps a bit of a reset or clarification from the U.S. side there.
And President Trump also met Zelensky privately at the Vatican earlier, didn't he? And spoke warmly afterwards. It's a complex dynamic.
It definitely adds layers. And you also have the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Bridget Brink, resigning. She publicly stated she couldn't back a policy that pressures Ukraine instead of Russia, calling peace at any price appeasement. That highlights the internal debate.
Different views right within the U.S. system. What about other players? Pope Leo XIV offered the Vatican for peace talks.
Yes, a significant offer. He spoke of martyred Ukraine and the Holy See wanting to help bring the sides together for dialogue. It shows that wider international push for some kind of resolution.
But while all this diplomacy or lack of it is going on, the fighting is still intense on the ground. The report mentions Russia ramping up attacks on the Eastern Front, possibly gearing up for a big summer offensive.
Exactly. Their advances are described as slow, very costly, but they have made some recent gains. South of Kostiantynivka, which is an important logistics hub in Donetsk. So the military pressure from Russia is relentless.
And Ukraine sees these constant attacks, like that huge drone barrage we started with, as proof Putin isn't serious about peace.
That seems to be their perspective, yes. They see the military actions as the real indicator of Russia's intentions, more so than any diplomatic signals. It feeds this cycle of violence and mistrust.
So let's try to pull these threads together. We have this massive drone attack hitting Kyiv. It happens right before this high-stakes Trump-Putin call. Diplomacy seems stalled, with fundamentally different goals. There's disagreement within the U.S. on strategy, the Pope offering mediation, and meanwhile, the fighting grinds on and even escalates in the East. It's all interconnected.
It absolutely is. You see these competing ideas about how peace might even be achieved. Some focusing on pressuring Ukraine, others saying the pressure needs to be squarely on Russia to stop the aggression. Very different approaches.
So thinking about all these pieces and the increased military force, the simultaneous diplomatic maneuvering, the deep disagreements, what does this mix suggest to you about where things might be heading? And maybe more importantly for you listening, given these dynamics, what role can outside actors like the U.S. or the Vatican realistically hope to play in shaping what happens next? That's something to really chew on.